Hey there everyone, welcome back to Utility Sports. The 2024 NBA Draft Day 1 has come and gone, and now I've got my draft winners and losers from the first day of NBA Draft action. Remember, this is the inaugural two-day NBA Draft, so we've got even more action tomorrow, a lot more to break down. There's going to be future videos to check out, so stay tuned to that. But we have to recap day one. Who won the first round, the first 30 picks? What teams did great? What teams didn't do so well? I'm going to break it all down here for you now. So let's go ahead and jump forward into that video preview. And let's get some of our vocabulary down, because some people, especially if it's your favorite team mentioned, might get a little offended. Winners are teams or players that I love the fit or draft value for. So if I had a player, say number 3rd on my board, and he went outside of the top 5, I probably really like the value for that selection. Some teams made trades to go get certain guys. And if I really like the fit of specific players, I think I'm going to give that a positive value, a positive spin on that selection. On the other hand, there's maybe some fits I don't like as much. Maybe there's some selections that were a little bit of a head scratcher to me when it comes to the actual application of that player on that new team that they just got drafted by. So keep that in mind throughout this video. Remember, this is based on my big board. Mostly it is it's very subjective, depending on how I'm feeling about these players, and obviously you're going to have differing opinions, so let me know down in the comment section below. Make sure to do so respectfully. If you disagree with me, no problem there, but do so respectfully. And then make sure to leave a like and subscribe as well to the channel. I would really love to have you guys be a part of what we do here in the future. I'm sure this video is going to get a lot of views, and I would love for you guys to be a part of Utility Sports moving forward. Comment down below your thoughts, and let's jump forward now into those winners. Who had a really good day one of the 2024 NBA Draft? Let's break it down now, starting with my biggest winner, and that is French hoops. There was a lot to break down from this draft, but I think the first and most important thing to touch on, the value of France in the current landscape of NBA basketball and just basketball around the world. Last year, Victor Wembanyama was the first overall pick of the San Antonio Spurs, arguably the best prospect in the history of the sport. This year, the first 2 picks in the draft are French-born prospects in Zaccharie Risacher and Alex Sarr. This draft was loaded with French talent. You also look at pick number 6, Tidjane Salaun, went to the Charlotte Hornets. We'll talk about him a little bit later in this video. France is a powerhouse. It is really evolving, emerging as a basketball powerhouse, and with that means we're going to have to keep our eyes on the French national team. We're also going to have to keep our eyes on future drafts as France becomes more and more talented and we see more of their players in the NBA. The likelihood that even more people, even more kids down the road come from France as really talented basketball players continues to grow and grow and grow. The ability, the talent that they are producing right now is incredible. And I think Risacher for Atlanta made a lot of sense. I talked about his fit as an off-ball wing, someone who's very good and adept playing off the catch, fitting in transition, playing without the ball in his hands. I think playing alongside someone like Trae Young is going to be able to really maximize his talent, and I think his defensive versatility does help out Atlanta quite a bit. And then for Washington, they had 3 picks in the first round of the draft. They walk away with Bob Carrington, Keyshawn George, but really the headliner is Alex Sarr, 2nd overall. They got the player who is number 1 on my big board, the player who I, coming into this draft, thought was the best overall prospect with really immense upside because of his defensive versatility. I think the Wizards, who have a couple of high upside grabs in this draft with Carrington and Keyshawn George, the highest one is, no doubt about it, unquestionably Alex Sarr, because he has the ability to transform Washington's defense. One of the biggest issues with their team last year was the defensive end of the floor. Now with his presence, he's going to be able to shut down certain things. He's super switchy, rangy. This gives them a lot of flexibility, not only this upcoming season defensively, but going into future drafts. And I think that's super important to remember for Washington, a team that is focused on losing long-term, building up draft equity, draft compensation, and picking toward the top of the draft for multiple years in a row. Having that flexibility gives them the chance next year of maybe taking someone like Cooper Flagg, or maybe they don't need, or maybe they don't land that first overall pick. Maybe they go with an Ace Bailey, or maybe they go with a guard. They could go with a Nolan Traore, another French guard to watch for, by the way. There's a lot of talent coming over in the next couple of drafts. 2025 seems to be stacked. 2026 is going to be a very strong draft class too. We have the Boozer twins coming up. This is a really special opportunity for Washington to add talent, add a good player here in Alex Sarr, and continue to really build up their roster moving forward. Winner number 2 for me is UConn men's basketball. They made a real statement on the night of the draft here on Wednesday with 2 big-time selections in the top 7 of the NBA draft. UConn men's basketball just keeps on winning. 2-time national champions now back-to-back, and 2 top 7 picks, 2 top half of the lottery selections in the 2024 draft, with Stephon Castle being a special defensive prospect going 4th overall to the San Antonio Spurs, and Donovan Clingan 7th overall. He falls to the Portland Trailblazers. Remember, earlier this week I was saying the absolute floor for Clingan would be pick number 7. I knew Portland had him very high on their board. I knew they had him held in very high regard, and they were able to get him on draft night without even having to move up. That was a huge win for the Portland Trailblazers on draft night. I think the Blazers are another big winner. They walk away with Donovan Clingan without having to give up extra draft capital to move up, and they also walk away with Deni Avdija via trade with the Washington Wizards. I think in a holistic viewpoint, the Portland Trailblazers should be very, very happy with how day 1 of the 2024 NBA draft went for them. They got a very talented center, someone who can really pass, screen, roll, protect the rim. He's going to be an elite drop coverage big man. I think this is really, really strong for Portland. I had him in the top 6 on my big board. I think he's a really good fit for the Blazers, who needed more of that strength, physicality, size, and rim deterrence. You know, everyone's going to talk about Ayton. You bring up Robert Williams. I think out of the trio of big men they now have, Donovan Clingan is going to be the best one long term. I really trust his game on both ends of the floor. I think this is really phenomenal for the Blazers. And then for the Spurs, listen, I'm not completely enamored with what they did tonight. We'll talk about the trade at pick number 8 a little bit later, but I understand the idea behind it, and I can't sit here and hate on it quite yet, because they did get some interesting draft compensation. They got a pick swap in 2030. They already owed one with the Dallas Mavericks, so now they have basically triple the chance at a top pick in the 2030 draft. That's so far away, it's hard to imagine what that could possibly become, but that is some possible upside that when Victor Wembanyama is entering his prime, maybe the Spurs are reaping the benefits of that trade. They also got an unprotected 2031 first from the Minnesota Timberwolves, so racking up some more draft pick compensation. And then for the actual selection they made for themselves, Stephon Castle, I think, has the ability to become this nightmarish defensive player alongside Victor Wembanyama, with his defensive versatility, his screen navigation, the ability to stay attached to ball handlers, cut players off on drives. He rides hips extremely well, and he plays vertically defensively. Those are all very impressive things. And then on the offensive end of the floor, he has an emerging playmaking feel. I like his ability to get downhill, play off of 2 feet, create, use his body, lean into some of his physicality and his physical tools at about 6'6". Without shoes on, he's just an impressive physical specimen with a good collection of IQ, understanding on how to win. He's really grown as a winner. He's referenced that himself during his time at UConn. That really helped usher him along as a basketball player. I think Stephon Castle is a tremendous talent, and one that San Antonio is going to be very happy having on their roster moving forward. Moving on to my third winner, I have the Utah Jazz here, most specifically for their selection of Cody Williams, 10th overall. The Jazz kind of got unlucky with the way the lottery shook out. They ended up falling down a couple of spots. Very unfortunate for them, but they still landed a guy I had top 4 on my board, because I think the long-term potential is extremely immense for Cody Williams for a number of different reasons. I love his rim pressure. His downhill rim volume most specifically is what stands out to me as a 6'8" wing with a 7'1" wingspan. His ability to exert pressure on the rim as an elongated finisher, I think he utilizes his length extremely well offensively, something we don't talk about a ton. Typically, length is something we mention more so on the defensive end of the floor. I think his length really does come into factor in his offensive finishing game, because even though he's rather slight right now, he's got a very thin frame to him. He's extremely skinny and slight. He still was a very high volume elite rim finisher in the college game, which is extremely impressive for a true freshman with a very slight frame and build. It's a testament to his ability to focus on the rim, his concentration around the rack, through and around size. His ability to play into and absorb contact is very impressive, and I think as his frame fills out, and he puts on some muscle as he matures, ages a little bit, gets into his early 20s, he's going to be an extremely impressive prospect because of the ability to get downhill and play off of that platform, because when he gets downhill, he keeps his head up, he's able to make reads, he's shown advanced playmaking capabilities. Now, a lot of that comes in spurts and flashes. It's not extremely consistent yet, but if there's a player I'm willing to bet on as a wing in this draft, being able to play make downhill, constantly make the right read and decision with a live handle, I do believe it's Cody Williams. You look at his brother, Jalen Williams. I'm not basing his skill set off of Jalen Williams, but I'm looking at the physical growth and the development pathway for Jalen Williams. He really was a quick learner from his age 19 season in college to his age 21 season in college. Obviously, we know the player he's turned into now for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I think for Utah, specifically getting Cody Williams here, they were very thin on the wings. They needed a player with immense upside like a Cody Williams. They ultimately got that player now. Danny Ainge did it again. I really love this selection for the Jazz. It's a home run pick in my estimation. I also must mention here for the Utah Jazz, landing Isaiah Collier at pick number 29 is a very fascinating upside grab. He's someone I've been very doubtful toward. He's someone I have expressed some of my concerns about his fit in the NBA. But for Utah, who did have a real lapse in playmaking at the point guard spot, a team that could really use a player capable of dominating the rock, making reads as a downhill decision maker, a downhill passer, Isaiah Collier could be a very, very good fit here in Utah. I think it's a unique situation where Danny Ainge again takes another stab on upside, and if Collier hits, he could be a big steal at 29. I've expressed my doubts, but I do understand as well, this late into the first round, I can definitely justify that type of decision. It's an interesting upside grab for the Jazz. I like their draft as a whole. Now at my fourth winner spot, and I really love this too, for both of these teams and both of these young kids, winner number 4 is shooting and shooters, because wow, these two guys are going to help the teams that just got them on draft night here. Dalton Knecht falls all the way to pick number 17. I could not believe that. That was the big surprise of the draft for me. Dalton Knecht, someone I had mocked constantly in the top 10, especially toward the end of the process. He falls all the way down to number 17. It's a perfect fit. You're giving J.J. Redick, one of the best movement shooters in recent NBA history, in his first time ever coaching at a high-level head coaching job. We gave him a movement shooting guard who can do it all. He's thinking back to his time at Tennessee, he was capable of attacking closeouts, putting the ball on the deck, creating for himself. Now, it's something he's not going to do a lot in the NBA, but it is a positive benefit for him to be able to recall some of those skills late in the shot clock. He's going to be able to make some things happen. But most specifically, I love the way that he's able to set his feet while moving at high speeds, whether that's running off of floppy action, if you're flaring him into the corner, if you're running him off of hammer actions, are you trying to get him transition opportunities. Knecht is very adept at getting his feet set and pulling the trigger rather quickly while moving at high speeds. And I think with the Lakers, most specifically, a team that last year just did not shoot enough threes. That was my gripe with the team the entire season after letting Malik Beasley go in free agency last year. They really struggled to shoot the ball and shoot the ball consistently. Dalton Knecht is a perfect fit onto the roster. It addresses one of their biggest needs. He's a phenomenal fit around their two best players in LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And they have a head coach who understands how to utilize a player like this. He himself, J.J. Redick, was a shooter like this. Getting Dalton Knecht, yes, he's an older prospect, but a player who is extremely talented and walks into an immediate role with the Los Angeles Lakers. It's an A+++ grade for the Lakers. And then Jared McCain, who was my favorite mock pick for the Sixers all draft cycle long. Jared McCain to the Philadelphia 76ers. I said all the time how he made so much sense as a backcourt pairing partner with Tyrese Maxey. I think Maxey's downhill speed, his long speed, his transition nightmare threat, alongside the shooting prowess of a Jared McCain, just makes a ton of sense. McCain's ability to toggle between on-ball and off-ball roles will be very valuable for Philadelphia. It gives them a little bit more on-ball creation when Maxey's out of the game, but when Maxey's on the floor with Embiid, with Jared McCain, he can function as an above-the-break three-point threat, especially with deep range, the ability to knock down pull-up jump shots. He's a pretty unique cutter. I think he just leverages his entire perimeter skill set extremely well with the ability to dribble, pass, shoot. That's been really the main phrase here on the channel. Dribble, pass, shoot. That's what always wins, and I really like the direction the Sixers are going here. After landing Jared McCain, I think these two picks, Dalton Knecht at 17, Jared McCain at 16 for the Lakers and Sixers respectively, were absolute home run picks for these teams. I was shocked that they got to this spot of the draft, but especially Knecht. But I love the selections. I think this is a home run for both of these squads. Now on to winner number 5, and the Minnesota Timberwolves made waves on draft night here in day 1, trading all the way up to pick number 8, and they didn't even give up their other first-round pick to do it. They traded out a 2030 pick swap and a 2031 first unprotected to the San Antonio Spurs to jump all the way up into the top 10 and select a player who I had very highly on my board. That player is Rob Dillingham of the San Antonio Spurs, or so we thought, of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, previously from Kentucky. You know what they say about Kentucky guards, they work out pretty well. Rob Dillingham has a lot to his overall game. The ability to knock down, dribble, pull-up shots, create out for himself out of isolation, create for himself in the pick and roll, extremely quick, shifty, an electric handle, and the ability to make passes and reads off of that as well. I think one of the most undersold traits of his game is his playmaking vision. Now, he is small for the position, 6'1", 165 pounds. He's extremely slight. He's extremely small, but I do think from a skill set perspective, you could argue he's one of the most skilled players in this entire draft. I had him number 3 on my board. Minnesota, who came into tonight with only the number 27 pick tonight, they were able to move all the way up to pick number 8, walk away with Rob Dillingham, and they didn't even have to sacrifice the number 27 pick. They ended up drafting Terrence Shannon Jr. there as well. I know a lot of people are going to hold Terrence Shannon Jr. in high regard too. I think that's a pretty solid pick for them. Someone who could maybe function as an off-the-bench piece for them. We'll see how his career progresses, but I do really think Rob Dillingham makes a ton of sense for Minnesota. They had an aging point guard situation with Mike Conley. They needed a long-term solution to the position. I think Conley's still a good player at this point in time, but this gives Dillingham a runway to be a legitimate backup point guard, a microwave scorer off the bench for them as a rookie, and then going into the second year of his career, presumably taking the reins from Mike Conley. Dillingham and Anthony Edwards could become one of the most dynamic, unique backcourts in the NBA, with Dillingham's ability to create shots for himself, play off the bounce, and create space. The Wolves really needed a little bit more offensive punch. I think that Dillingham's going to consistently provide that for them. The Wolves have the defensive infrastructure around Dillingham to hide him and even make him successful, I think, defensively in the right spots. As long as Chris Finch continues to coach at the level he did this past year, I don't really foresee a ton of issues there in that regard. And I think Dillingham's creativity, his ability to play make, score the basketball is going to be a phenomenal fit next to Anthony Edwards, who exerts so much downhill rim pressure, an emerging pull-up jump shot, and Anthony Edwards has taken big steps forward himself as a lead guard. I think the pairing here is very, very good, and I think Dillingham's going to be an awesome pickup for the Minnesota Timberwolves moving forward. Now we get into some of the losers. So who are the odd ones out in this video? And remember, this is just mostly based off of my subjective big board. I understand if you disagree. Let me know respectfully down in the comment section why you disagree with me. But my first losers here are the Charlotte Hornets, who, look, they took one of those French players I talked about in the open. Unfortunately, this one I had number 20 on my board, and they drafted him 6th overall. And I'm really bummed about this because if you guys remember my best futures video, I talked about the Charlotte Hornets and how I felt like they finally turned a corner, and the trades of PJ Washington and the trades of Gordon Hayward and the trade of Terry Rozier, I thought was a changing of the guard for Charlotte with all the extra draft compensation they were able to pick up, some of the young talent they were able to accrue. I was extremely excited, and I understand this selection from an on-paper roster fit perspective because he's a power forward, but all draft cycle on, guys, I've been saying the least valuable position is a questionable shooting power forward. I just don't know if I trust his shot, and if I did trust his shot, he would have probably been way higher on my board. I love the athletic traits. I love all the tools. For me, I just am not in on Tidjane Salaun to the point of taking him in the top 6. There were a lot of other players who I think have higher ceilings, higher upsides, and significantly higher floors as well. So the Hornets, who I think go a little stray here. I'm not sure a lot of people were expecting Tidjane Salaun to be the 6th overall pick in this year's draft. I think that was a little rich for him. You could have even considered maybe trying to trade down, pick up a little bit of extra draft compensation. Of course, nothing seemingly materialized there for the Hornets. I understand the decision from a fit perspective, looking for length, athleticism, rim protection, rebounding. The concern for me here is he good enough at any of those things to justify some of the shortcomings? Is he skilled enough to be a starting caliber player in the NBA? And if he's a starting caliber player, is that all he becomes? Is he just a starting caliber player, and that's what you took 6th overall in a class where I think there's a whole bunch of high-quality starter players, a whole bunch of high-quality players in general? You know, Tidjane Salaun, again, I had him 20th on my board. I'm just a little disappointed here for Charlotte. Hornets fans, I'm sure you are a little bit as well. Now, listen, this isn't a franchise-defining pick. You have your infrastructure in place. This does put a little bit of a bump in the road, though, if it doesn't hit. I'm hoping for the best here for Charlotte. Again, not trying to be too negative, but I do have my doubts about this selection, but it's not nearly as bad as this one. The Milwaukee Bucks are my biggest loser from day one of the 2024 NBA draft. They selected A.J. Johnson from the Illawarra Hawks, originally from Fresno, California. And for me, A.J. Johnson's a player, we knew there was speculation he had a first-round promise. I was very hesitant about A.J. Johnson. I was very hesitant about his ability to play in the league, especially early in his career. And I think there's a lot of tools to work with. I like the athleticism. I like the downhill speed. But here's some of the flaws I see. He's extremely right-handed. He needs to attack to his right hand. He needs to drive to his right hand. I don't know how he really fits without the ball in his hands very much. His biggest asset, his biggest strength is his speed and downhill quickness. Those are great things to have, but around Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, how do you weaponize those things? I think that's a big concern for me as well. And then with Milwaukee here, just given the fact that they're a very old roster, an aging roster with a lot of long-term questions, I think that, yes, A.J. Johnson, even if he lives up to his long-term potential, the issue is you're trying to contend right now. I don't see a way with Doc Rivers, who is a coach who's very reluctant to play young players, drafting someone like A.J. Johnson, who probably needs a little bit of a runway and a development pathway to really get on the floor. I don't know how he makes that much sense for a Doc Rivers current Milwaukee Bucks team. Someone like Baylor Shireman, an older prospect like Terrence Shannon Jr., who we've already talked about, I think would have been maybe a little bit more sensible for Milwaukee given their current team context. Obviously, you don't want to just sell your soul for the present, and maybe that's part of Milwaukee's philosophy here. And who knows, maybe A.J. Johnson way out, performs or exceeds my expectations. I'm just very, very critical of this decision. I think this is the worst pick in the first round, and one that I just would not have made, especially given the team context here for Milwaukee. I think they should have gone in a number of different ways. They do have pick 33, so maybe they'll rebound, bounce back, and find a way on day 2 to improve drastically. We'll see. But A.J. Johnson, just not the pick I would have made here. And I think the Bucks are a big-time loser on day 1 of the NBA draft. Thank you all so much for watching. Really hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more content. Go follow me on Twitter as well. All of my draft grades are on there. If you have questions about any of the picks that I didn't talk about in this video, or if you want further clarification, feel free to comment down below. I read every single comment. Thanks everyone so much for watching. We'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.